Is Total Overdose still good? Total Overdose, A Gunslinger's Tale in Mexico, is an open-world third-person action game developed by Deadline Games and released on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox back in 2005. As was the norm at the tail end of the 6th generation of consoles, this M-rated title was not released on the Nintendo GameCube. Total Overdose was clearly inspired by the Grand Theft Auto series, featuring an open-world design, plenty of violence and mature themes, intertwined with a criminal underworld plot-driven narrative. Despite the derivative nature of Total Overdose, it was met with generally favorable reviews. GameSpot scored the game a 6.7 out of 10, stating, "Action game fans ought to be able to settle in and blast their way through Total Overdose's relatively brief campaign with reasonable levels of enjoyment. Just be prepared for one extremely cheesy ride." 1UP gave the game a 7 out of 10, noting, "When it works, Total Overdose is a surreal blur of bullets, keeping time to the meringue. But for each of those moments, there are an equal number that run together into an indistinguishable mush of gunning down guys in sombreros to Latino rap." Finally, IGN scored the game an 8 out of 10, proclaiming, "While Total Overdose may not be the most original, deep, or serious game to hit a console, the game benefits in many ways from being the exact opposite. Its proven gunplay, in-your-face action, and witty sense of style make Total Overdose a game that deserves at least a quick playthrough." So, is Total Overdose still this good? Let's dive in.
Job done, pal.
Impressive, Ernesto. Incredibly destructive, but impressive.
The game opens with you briefly playing the role of Ernesto Cruz, an undercover DEA agent deep in the Mexican jungle. This acts as the obligatory tutorial stage, helping you come to grips with the controls. Basically, you can run, jump, and shoot. Generally speaking, aiming near an enemy will automatically lock onto them. This is strange at first, as your center reticle may be slightly off, but as long as you see the red lock-on icon, you can start blasting and bullets will find their mark. It also means most of the footage you're about to see will look somewhat sloppy, as the reticle and lock-on target don't match up. Despite this wrinkle, the whole scheme works fairly smooth in practice. After making your way through the warehouses and storage sheds, you make your way to the getaway plane and are thrown out of said plane by someone named Papa Merte. The death is reported as a drug overdose, but as we can clearly see in the cutscene, the man was murdered. A few years later, his son Tommy, who also works for the DEA, decides to investigate what really happened to his father. He has his doubts about the drug overdose story and decides to go undercover himself. After befriending a local junkyard owner, Tommy's first mission is to blow up a tanker leading to a cartel farm. Here, the rest of the game's advanced controls are presented. First, you can take control of nearly any vehicle in the game. Not only can you drive them around and run people over, but you can also use them as a weapon. Simply jump out of the vehicle using the left trigger and they will continue on their way, exploding upon impact. Next, there is a Max Payne-styled slow motion mode, allowing you to jump in any direction and shoot at foes with time slowed down. Time doesn't slow down for your enemies, of course, giving you the advantage in a shootout. Time is limited by your adrenaline meter, but this seems to fill up reasonably quick. After taking out the remaining members of the cartel, Tommy's foot gets blown off by a grenade. With Tommy out of commission, he has his twin brother Ram released from prison to take his place in the Mexican underworld. Thankfully, you'll control Ram for the remainder of the game, with Tommy acting as a narrator of sorts back at the DEA base for the rest of the adventure.
Interesting. New undercover look with the beard and all.
As these are twin brothers, Ram seems to slip right in where Tommy left off on his quest for vengeance. With the vehicle and combat basics out of the way, you are finally placed into the open world of Total Overdose. From here, you can move to the various sections of the game world, exploring the sprawling city. In each section are challenge missions marked with a star icon and story missions marked with a person icon. The challenge missions are mostly optional, while the story missions contain cutscenes and move the plot forward. For the most part, the story missions are more elaborate than the challenge missions, having Ram complete longer missions, slowly unraveling the mystery of his father's death. Between story missions, you are often left with no choice but to complete a challenge mission or two, as a story mission is not available. You are also given the choice to explore the different areas of Mexico to find the missions, or choose missions from the menu. Myself, for this playthrough, I played the game in an open world fashion, actually traveling to the different locations on the map, rather than selecting them from the menu. The challenge missions do serve a few different purposes. First off, they are used to perfect your skills. Early on, for example, you are tasked with taking down some burrito stands run by drug dealers. You also have to score a certain amount of points for this to be successful. This allows you to practice driving cars into things and watching them explode, and also trains you to use your special moves to earn points. Points are actually a key element in Total Overdose, and understanding the point system is necessary for success as the game progresses. A key way to rack up points is to continue to kill enemies quickly. After taking one down, the compass in the bottom portion of the screen acts as a timer. If you kill another enemy before the timer runs out, your kill chain will keep growing. This chain dramatically increases your point total, which is tallied at the end of every challenge mission and story mission. By meeting certain thresholds, you'll unlock new missions, as well as additional power-ups. This includes the ability to dual-wield weapons, unlock infinite bullets, increase your health and stamina bars, and more impressive, loco moves. Many of these power-ups are also awarded for killing enemies, and some can be found scattered about the levels. At the top of the screen, you'll see all of the loco moves you currently have in your arsenal. These moves are a huge part of the charm found in Total Overdose. My favorites include the Tornado, which has Ram jump into the air and do a full 360, killing all enemies in the area. This is useful for when a room gets just a little too crowded. The Golden Gun gives you instant headshots, which is insanely useful for taking out faraway foes. El Toro has Ram charging around the screen, smashing foes while invincible, and my favorite to use during boss fights is the El Mariachi, which are heavy machine guns hiding in guitar cases. The benefit of invincibility and insane damage output is just too good to pass up. While talking about items, I should also talk about the Rewind item. While Ram can replenish his health by collecting health power-ups, he doesn't really have extra lives, so to speak. While the game saves between missions, and longer missions even have save points, the Rewind acts as a sort of instant save. When you die, you can use the Rewind power-up to rewind time and retry the section that just got you killed. Additionally, you'll have some life replenished, which is also helpful considering you didn't have enough to make it through to begin with. You can actually use the Rewind whenever you'd like, but I found myself saving them for when I died. When you combine the Rewind, slow motion, and loco moves together with the outlandish set pieces, you get a sort of Tex-Mex meets Matrix meets spaghetti western feel that looks awful on paper, but somehow works in practice.
Stepping right into a trap! Your biggest problem is that you've got big cojones, but nothing in your brain.
Anyway, back to the missions. Like I mentioned earlier, the story missions are the most complex. Early on, you'll have to infiltrate a cartel farm and blow up some tanks. The first one is easy, having you use your previously learned vehicle skills to take it down. The rest are more challenging, requiring you to traverse up vertical structures and then zip line over guard fences, for example. While the game bills itself as an open-world style game, the missions themselves can be very linear, requiring you to complete tasks in the exact order the designers intended to be successful. My brain says I should be able to drive through this front gate, but the game says no, you must use the zip line. Another area has you recovering semi-trucks from a shipyard. The first is easy enough, just get in and drive, but the second is far more complex. You have to locate and press the appropriate buttons to move a shipping container boxing in the semi. The third semi follows suit, and you have to infiltrate an actual cargo ship and get the semi off the ship before driving it to safety. Of course, this doesn't end the mission. You then have to drive a bomb into the newly emptied container, re-enter the cargo ship, move the shipping container containing the bomb onto the cargo ship, and then escape the cargo ship before time runs out. These drug cartels don't take kindly to their rides being stolen, that's for sure. Another section has you infiltrating your way through a bullfighting arena, which is run by another rival gang, as they too have a piece of information needed to find the truth regarding your father's death. Crazier still is a meatpacking plant. The developers at Deadline Games did an awesome job keeping environments fresh, and each area does a good job feeling unique and different. Needless to say, the scenarios presented are always a bit on the outlandish side, and I appreciate how Total Overdose never takes itself too seriously. This is good too, as the gameplay itself rarely changes from beginning to end. There may be a turret section here and there, and even some cool driving sections, but the running and gunning is almost always front and center. Yet it too always feels like it's evolving. Enemy waves get more and more challenging, requiring you to have a better grasp of the shooting mechanics to be successful, in addition to those awesome loco moves. If there's one thing I appreciate in any game, it's a progressive learning curve, and Total Overdose gets it just right. Jumping back into the plot, a female character named Angel overhears Ram talking to his brother. She reveals she is working undercover, and the two develop a kinship of sorts. With her knowledge of all of the local gangs and cartels, Ram and Tommy are able to dive deeper into the criminal underworld and discover the true source of their father's death.
You need to make him talk, not make him silent. So try to get in and out unnoticed.
This leads us to the final 3 story missions of Total Overdose, which represent some of the most relentless and challenging missions of the game. The first is a jungle mission, which is where we began the whole game back in Mission 1. If you took your time and actually completed more challenge missions than I did, you'll probably have unlocked unlimited ammunition for a few of your guns. If you're like me, you have to constantly pick up dropped munitions from the fallen enemies. In either case, you're in for a treat with a near constant barrage of enemy fire through the dense jungles of Mexico. You'll also have to seek out certain buttons and switches to unlock certain gates and doors to keep moving forward. And finally, you'll be challenged to take down specific targets. The jungle settings do an awesome job mashing nearly every level gimmick together into one epic mission. Throughout the game thus far, it's been hinted there is a rat working inside the DEA office. This becomes quite clear in the meat factory level, as the cartel is waiting for the DEA to arrive, and then promptly mows them all down. Near the end of Total Overdose, we learn the rat in the DEA is actually Agent Johnson. And not only is he betraying the badge, he is responsible for your father Ernesto's death. If that wasn't enough, he also injects Tommy and his partner with drugs, so they can also die of an overdose. A total overdose, if you will. And finally, he kidnaps Angel, which doesn't sit right with Ram. So, with these developments, Ram has to work his way to the DEA headquarters to deliver an antidote to his dying brother. Of course, the DEA is in the US, meaning a massive brawl at the US-Mexico border before finally entering the DEA headquarters, which has been completely taken over by Agent Johnson. After finding the antidote for his brother, Ram has a new problem to contend with. There is a bomb in the basement of the DEA, ready to destroy all of the evidence. This is by far the most challenging mission in the entire game. You have to take out 4 different boss characters with large life bars. After this, a bomb timer ticks off, giving you very little time to dispose of said bomb. First, you have to lower the bomb to the ground floor and then move it with a forklift. Speaking of forklifts, there's an earlier challenge mission where you have to use a forklift to move crates out of the way of a parked car. This is a timed mission as well, meaning you have to act swiftly to succeed. I can't help but feel like this is a callback to Shenmue, and the first time I got to drive the forklift, I couldn't help but smile. Anyway, the forklift skills learned earlier are put to good use here, and you have to get the bomb to an underground train beneath the complex so the bomb can explode in the safety of the American desert. It is worth noting there is some trial and error involved here, which hasn't really been a mechanism used to increase difficulty up to this point. After dying a few times, I started prepping the entire level so I could make the bomb transition with minimal fuss in the time allowed. This included opening different gates, parking a forklift near the bomb area, and killing all of the enemies that would impede my progress. It doesn't really seem possible to beat this level without having already failed a few times, which feels a bit unfair in my opinion. Anyway, Ram jumps from the exploding train car to Agent Johnson's getaway train and the final level begins. This is another gauntlet in tight corridors with well-armed militia hell-bent on helping Agent Johnson escape. Worse yet, Angel has been tied to the front of the train, which makes no sense but fits the context of the rest of this ridiculous gunslinging tale. And even more worse yet, the government has engaged a few jets to destroy a bridge up ahead, assuring death to everyone on the train. This leads us to the final segment of the game. After making his way to the front of the train, Ram finally catches up with Agent Johnson, who disconnects the front engine from the rest of the train, meaning Ram cannot get to Angel. Thankfully, the crate next to him contains a bike. Unfortunately, there's a gun turret on the train engine. The final level has you shooting at the turret while avoiding incoming fire and snatching up bonus health. After taking down the turret, Ram needs to get to the front of the train to kick off the final cutscene. Ram rescues Angel, Agent Johnson falls to his death, and everyone lives happily ever after. Then, of course, the credits roll. So, with the gameplay out of the way, let's talk about the rest of the presentation. If you haven't noticed by now, the graphics are incredibly sharp. This is because Total Overdose is one of those original Xbox games that runs in high definition, in this case 720p. While no one would mistake this for an Xbox 360 game, the high-resolution graphics look excellent and have helped the game age remarkably well. The other thing helping the game age well visually are the colors. Everything feels like it's radiating a glow of color, giving the game an almost surreal visual style. This visual style gives the game a hint of a cartoonish appearance, matching the silly story perfectly. While I do wish the frame rate was a bit higher, as it will drop from 30 frames per second when the action is thick, and there is a ton of screen tearing, I do feel the 720p visuals and terrific lighting effects do help this game stand out. It's also worth mentioning the soundtrack, which seems to be owned by Universal Music Group, so I can't really showcase it. In any case, this too matches the over-the-top feel, with tracks sounding like an awesome mix of hip-hop and a mariachi band, giving the game a signature sound I don't think I've ever experienced in a video game. The high-energy music again really highlights the insane action, and I find it quite enjoyable.
Hey, gringo! That airfield is defended by anti-aircraft guns! Big, angry-looking anti-aircraft gun.
The voice acting is also way above average, in a B-movie sort of way. Nearly every character in the game is almost a caricature of sorts, fitting into an exaggerated stereotype rather than being realistic in the slightest. When viewed through the caricature lens, the politically incorrect one-liners are entertaining and really tie the colorful visuals together with the over-the-top gameplay. The developers hit just the right mix of playful jabs without ever crossing the line into something more sinister. I mean, why have a killing spree when you can go on a gringo frenzy? So with all of that out of the way, we arrive to the question asked at the beginning of the video: is Total Overdose still good? Looking through my gameplay notes, I can honestly say I have almost no complaints, other than a couple of trial and error moments near the end of the game, like this guy who blasts you with a rocket launcher as soon as you peek your head around the corner, giving you no chance to react, and the compass lacking a map. There is little to complain about. This starts with the controls. By the time I got to the end of the adventure, the controls felt like second nature. The button mapping is perfect, and cycling through weapons, going into slow motion mode, aiming, blowing up barrels, and using loco moves feels very intuitive and exceptionally satisfying. Everything feels very crisp and responsive, and while the auto-aim doesn't look great in the recorded footage, it feels awesome, and that awesome feel is what's most important. Next, I can't stress enough just how fun Total Overdose is. Now, I don't have much experience with open-world crime games, and this is the first I'm reviewing for the channel, but I will say compared to many of the other third-person action-oriented games I've played, this one ranks right near the top. There is something wonderfully playful about the entire adventure, almost like it's constantly flirting with you. Instead of getting all gritty and serious, Total Overdose keeps the violence silly, and while the dialogue is chock full of swear words, it does so to comedic effect. It creates a really refreshing experience I can't quite put into words. And finally, I really can't understate the sheer amount of variety tossed in here. I really dug the driving challenge missions, having you drive through makeshift circuits in a given area, and having to hit specific targets while the points tick down was fun and challenging. Normally, I lose interest in open-ended titles like this, and the thought of spending 30 or more hours on a single game with my current life schedule is just daunting, and quite frankly, not possible. But it took me just 9 hours to get through Total Overdose. I did you'd skip most of the optional content, and completionists could easily double or triple gameplay time if they so choose. And you'd be rewarded too, with unlimited ammunition as well as expanded health and adrenaline bars, which is pretty awesome. While replayability may be limited, there is a massive amount of content here. To put it simply, Total Overdose: A Gunslinger's Tale in Mexico is one of the most surprising games I've played this year. Despite the positive reviews, I was expecting to grow tired and bored, but this never happened. The game is just way too polished, way too balanced, and oozes way too much style to ever become a grind to slog through. It looks great, sounds great, and plays great, so yeah, Total Overdose is still a great game. If you're looking for a GTA clone which is a bit smaller in scale, yet still larger than life, look no farther than Total Overdose.